The champagne glasses sparkled under the crystal chandeliers of the Sterling Industries ballroom. Simone Montgomery smoothed down her midnight blue evening gown and smiled at the investors surrounding her husband. She'd been to dozens of corporate events in her life, but this one felt different. This was her world now. Her real world. Where she belonged. "Mrs. Montgomery, your husband's expansion into the European market is brilliant," an older gentleman said, raising his glass to her. "You must be very proud." "I am," Simone replied warmly. "Adrian has worked incredibly hard for this." She excused herself to get some air, stepping toward the refreshment area near the main entrance. The gala was in full swing, with over 300 business leaders, investors, and executives filling the massive ballroom. This was Sterling Industries' biggest event of the year, and everything had to be perfect. That's when she saw him. Harrison Brooks stood near the entrance, his tall frame unmistakable even in the crowd. Her ex-husband. The man who had destroyed her life 2 years ago without a second thought. The billionaire who had thrown her away like trash when he decided his secretary was more exciting than his wife. Simone's heart hammered in her chest, but she kept her face calm. She'd known there was a chance she might see him eventually. The business world was smaller than people thought. But she hadn't expected it tonight. Not here. Not at Adrian's event. Harrison's eyes scanned the room with that familiar arrogance she remembered too well. He was looking for someone important, no doubt. Someone who could save his failing company. She'd heard through industry connections that Brooks Technologies was hemorrhaging money and investors. Their eyes met across the room. Simone saw the moment of recognition flash across his face, followed immediately by something ugly. Contempt. That same look he'd given her the day he told her she was worthless. That she'd been nothing but a pretty accessory for his arm. That Clarissa was everything she could never be. She turned away, refusing to let him see any emotion on her face. She was not that broken woman anymore. She was Simone Montgomery now. Wife to Adrian Montgomery, CEO of Sterling Industries. Chief Strategy Officer. Successful. Respected. But Harrison was walking toward her. She could feel it. That aggressive energy he always projected when he wanted to dominate someone. Well, his voice cut through the ambient noise as he approached. "Simone, I never thought I'd see you at an event like this. Did you crash the party, or are you working here? Let me guess, co-check? Or maybe you're serving drinks now." Several people nearby turned to look. Simone kept her composure, her voice level. "Harrison, I'm a guest here." He laughed. That cruel laugh she'd heard so many times during their divorce. "A guest? Right. With your background? We both know you don't belong in a room like this. You never did. You were always just pretending, riding on my success." "You need to walk away," Simone said quietly. "Or what?" Harrison stepped closer, his voice rising. More people were watching now, conversations dying around them. "You'll call security? Everyone here should know what you really are. A gold digger who married up and got exactly what she deserved when I divorced you. You're nothing, Simone. You always were." Before she could respond, Harrison reached out and pushed her. "Art." Simone stumbled backward in her heels, barely catching herself on the edge of a cocktail table. Gasps erupted around them. Champagne glasses toppled and shattered on the marble floor. Her expensive gown was splashed with wine. The entire ballroom seemed to freeze. "You don't belong here," Harrison said loudly, clearly enjoying the attention. "You're an embarrassment. Just like you always were. Get your hands off my wife." The voice was cold, deadly calm, and it came from directly behind Harrison. Adrian Montgomery stood there, 6 feet tall, his expression carved from ice. His usually warm brown eyes were hard as stone. Behind him stood 3 security guards and several board members, all staring at Harrison with undisguised shock and anger. Harrison's face went white. "Your wife." "Security," Adrian said, not taking his eyes off Harrison. "Remove this man from the premises immediately. And someone call the police. He just assaulted my wife in front of 300 witnesses." "Now wait just a minute," Harrison started. "You put your hands on her," Adrian interrupted, his voice cutting through the room like a blade. "You pushed my wife. You humiliated her in front of my investors, my board members, and my business partners. You're done here." Security moved forward, gripping Harrison's arms. He looked around wildly, finally seeming to understand the magnitude of what he'd just done. His eyes found Simone's face, and she saw the moment reality crashed down on him. She wasn't the broken woman he'd divorced. She wasn't working coat check. She was standing in this ballroom as an equal, as someone's cherished partner, as someone important. "Simone," Harrison whispered. I didn't know. You never knew anything about me, Simone said softly. That was always your problem. Adrian moved to her side, his hand gentle on her back. Are you hurt? I'm fine, she assured him, though her hands were shaking. Mr. Brooks, Adrian said, turning back to Harrison as security began dragging him toward the exit. Let me make something very clear. You just assaulted the chief strategy officer of Sterling Industries, my wife, in front of everyone who matters in this industry. Your company was already failing. But now, you're finished. Completely finished. Harrison's face crumbled as the implications hit him. The business connections he'd hoped to make tonight. The investors he needed. The last desperate chance to save his company. All gone in one moment of cruelty and arrogance. Get him out of here, Adrian ordered. As security hauled Harrison out of the ballroom, his protests fading into the distance, the crowd erupted in murmurs. Simone felt Adrian's arms wrap around her carefully, mindfully of the wine staining her dress. Are you okay? He asked again, this time more quietly, just for her. I am now, she whispered back. And she meant it. Because this time she wasn't alone. This time she had someone who valued her, protected her, saw her worth. This time Harrison couldn't destroy her. He could only destroy himself. 2 years earlier, Simone had believed her life was perfect. She stood in the marble kitchen of the Brooks mansion, preparing Harrison's favorite dinner. She'd spent the entire day making everything exactly right. She always did. You're too good to him, her best friend Tanya had said that morning over coffee. When does Harrison ever do anything special for you? He's busy building his empire, Simone had defended him. I knew what I was signing up for when I married a billionaire. But the truth was she hadn't known. Not really. Simone had met Harrison Brooks 5 years earlier at a charity auction. She'd been working as a project coordinator for a nonprofit, passionate about her work helping underprivileged communities. Harrison had swept into her life like a storm, confident, successful, and seemingly captivated by her. Their courtship had been intense. Expensive restaurants, private jets, weekend getaways to Paris. He'd told her she was different from other women. Real. Authentic. He'd proposed after 6 months and she'd said yes, believing in the fairy tale. The first year of marriage had been good. Harrison had been attentive, proud to have her on his arm at events. But gradually things changed. He started working later, coming home less, becoming distant when he was home. I'm building something important, he'd snap when she asked to spend time together. Can't you just be supportive? So she'd become more supportive. She'd quit her job at his suggestion because a Brooks wife doesn't need to work. She'd thrown herself into charity work and being the perfect corporate wife. She'd smiled at endless dinners with his business partners. She'd laughed at jokes she didn't find funny. She'd become smaller and smaller, trying to fit into the space he allowed her. That evening 2 years ago, Simone had left the charity gala early because of a migraine. She'd texted Harrison to let him know, but he hadn't responded. Typical. She'd come home to the empty mansion, at least she thought it was empty. The house staff had the evening off. Harrison wasn't supposed to be home for hours. Then she'd heard the sounds coming from upstairs. From their bedroom. Her legs had moved on autopilot, climbing the sweeping staircase. Her heart had known before her mind accepted it. The sounds grew clearer. Laughter. Intimate sounds. A woman's voice. She pushed open the bedroom door. Harrison had been in their bed with Clarissa Winters, his secretary. A woman Simone had trusted. A woman she'd invited to their home for dinner parties. A woman who'd smiled in her face while betraying her. The scene was seared into her memory forever. The shock on their faces. The way Clarissa hadn't even had the decency to look ashamed, just annoyed at being interrupted. The way Harrison had pulled the sheet up casually, like this was an inconvenience rather than a devastation. Simone, he'd said flatly. You're home early. That was it. No apology. No shame. Just irritation. How long? She'd whispered, her voice breaking. Does it matter? Harrison had climbed out of bed, pulling on his pants without any apparent embarrassment. Look, this isn't what you think. It's exactly what I think, Simone had said, tears streaming down her face. How long, Harrison? Clarissa had smirked. Actually smirked. A little over a year. A year. While Simone had been planning their anniversary party. While she'd been supporting his business expansion. While she'd been loving him with everything she had. Get out, Clarissa, Harrison had said, his eyes on Simone. Are you sure, baby? Clarissa had purred, running her hand down his chest. I said get out. After Clarissa left, taking her time getting dressed while Simone stood there frozen, Harrison had turned to her with cold eyes. "I want a divorce," he'd said simply. "What?" Simone had felt like she was drowning. "Let's not drag this out. We both know this marriage was a mistake. You're just not what I need. Clarissa understands me. She understands my ambitions. You've always been too soft, too needy, too ordinary." Each word had been a knife. Simone had stood there, her whole world collapsing, while the man she'd loved tore her apart with casual cruelty. "I gave you everything," she'd whispered. "You gave me nothing I couldn't get anywhere else," Harrison had replied. "You were good for my image for a while. The sweet nonprofit girl who made me look like a good guy. But I'm past needing that now. I need someone who can match my ambition. That's Clarissa." "You're a monster," Simone had said, finding her voice. "I'm practical," Harrison had corrected. "My lawyers will contact you tomorrow. You signed a prenup, so don't expect much. You can keep your jewelry and whatever personal items you want. But everything else is mine. This is my home too." "No," Harrison had interrupted. "It's my home. You just lived here. And now you're done living here. I want you out by the end of the week." Simone had packed a bag that night and gone to stay with Tanya. She'd cried for 3 days straight. Then she'd stopped crying and started fighting. But Harrison had been ready. His lawyers were ruthless. They painted her as unstable, vindictive, a gold digger who'd trapped Harrison into marriage. They froze her bank accounts. They turned their mutual friends against her with carefully planted stories. Clarissa had moved into the mansion the week after Simone left. Posted photos on social media of herself in Simone's home, wearing Simone's designer clothes, living Simone's life. The divorce had taken 6 months to finalize. 6 months of legal warfare. 6 months of Harrison systematically destroying everything she'd built. He'd called in favors to make sure she couldn't get hired at any major nonprofit in the city. He'd spread rumors that she was difficult to work with, mentally unstable, a leech. By the time the divorce was final, Simone had nothing. Almost no money, no job, no reputation, no friends in their old circle. She'd signed the papers in a small lawyer's office, her hands steady even though she wanted to scream. "You're making a mistake," Harrison's lawyer had said smugly. "You could have negotiated for more if you'd been reasonable." "I don't want his money," Simone had said quietly. "I just want to be free of him." And she'd walked out of that office with her head held high, carrying only her dignity and her determination to rebuild. She'd had no idea that she'd rebuild into something Harrison could never touch, that she'd become someone he couldn't destroy. That 6 months later, she'd meet a man who would show her what real love looked like. The lawyer's office was cold. Simone sat in an uncomfortable chair across from Harrison's legal team, 3 men in expensive suits who looked at her like she was garbage. "Mrs. Brooks," the lead attorney, a man named Patterson, said with false sympathy. "Let's discuss the settlement." "There's nothing to discuss," Simone's lawyer, Janet Torres, said firmly. "My client signed a prenuptial agreement. She's aware she's not entitled to any of Mr. Brooks's premarital assets or business holdings. However, she is entitled to fair compensation for." "Fair compensation?" Patterson laughed. "For what? Being married to one of the wealthiest men in the state for 4 years? Your client should count herself lucky she got to live the lifestyle she did." "My client contributed significantly to Mr. Brooks's social standing and business relationships," Janet argued. "Your client," Patterson interrupted, sliding a folder across the table, "has a history of mental instability that we're prepared to present in court if necessary." Simone felt her stomach drop. "What are you talking about?" "You sought therapy after your mother's death 7 years ago," Patterson said coldly. "Depression. Anxiety. We have medical records." "That's private medical information," Janet said, her voice rising. "You can't." "We can and we will if Miss Simone doesn't accept our offer," Patterson said. He pushed another document forward. $20,000. "That's more than generous." Simone stared at the number. $20,000. After 4 years of marriage. After giving up her career. After supporting Harrison through everything. "That's insulting," Janet said. "That's what she's worth," Patterson replied. "And if she fights this, we'll make sure everyone knows exactly who she really is. A gold digger who targeted Mr. Brooks deliberately. A mentally unstable woman who can't be trusted." "You're lying," Simone whispered. "Am I?" Patterson pulled out printed screenshots of social media posts. "These are from your college years. Wild parties. Drinking. A very different image than the sweet nonprofit girl you pretended to be. They were photos from normal college parties. Nothing scandalous. But Simone could see how they'd be twisted. How they'd be used against her. Mr. Brooks has already begun sharing his concerns about your stability with mutual acquaintances, Patterson continued. Several people have corroborated that you were becoming increasingly paranoid and controlling during the marriage. That you were obsessed with his whereabouts. That you made scenes at social events. That's completely false, Simone said, her voice shaking. Is it? Patterson smiled coldly. Or is that what someone with mental health issues would say? You see, Miss Simone, this can go one of two ways. You can take the 20,000 and walk away quietly. Or you can fight and we'll destroy whatever reputation you have left. We'll make sure you can't get hired anywhere. We'll make sure everyone knows you're unstable. We'll make your life very difficult. Simone looked at Janet, who was furious but clearly calculating their options. Give us a moment, Janet said. After Patterson and his team left the room, Janet turned to Simone. They're bluffing about some of this but not all of it. Harrison has the resources to make this ugly. I don't care, Simone said, surprised by the strength in her voice. I won't let him do this. Simone, I admire your courage, but you need to understand what you're up against. Harrison Brooks has unlimited funds for legal fees. You don't. He has connections to judges, media outlets, and influential people. You don't. If we fight this, it could take years and leave you with nothing but debt. So I should just let him win? I'm saying you should choose your battles wisely, Janet said gently. The prenup is ironclad. We're not going to get you a significant financial settlement. The best we can do is protect you from further damage. Simone felt tears burning her eyes. So he gets to destroy my life and face no consequences? I didn't say that, Janet said. I said we need to be smart. Take the settlement. Get out cleanly. Then rebuild your life. Living well is the best revenge, Simone. Trust me on this. The next 3 months were hell. Harrison's team froze Simone's credit cards, which had been in his name. They contested every small request she made. They dragged out paperwork. They scheduled hearings and then postponed them, forcing Simone to take time off from the temporary job she'd finally found at a small nonprofit. And the rumors started spreading. Simone would walk into a room and conversation would stop. Former friends avoided her calls. She showed up at a charity event she'd helped organize for years, and the chairwoman pulled her aside. Simone, I think it's best if you don't attend this year, the woman said, not meeting her eyes. Harrison is a major donor, and we can't afford to lose his support. I've worked on this event for 3 years, Simone protested. I know, and we appreciate that. But you have to understand our position. She understood. She understood perfectly. She was being erased. Clarissa made it worse. She posted constant photos on social media of her life with Harrison. Designer bags Simone used to carry. Restaurants where Simone used to dine. Even the bedroom that used to be Simone's, completely redecorated but recognizable. One photo caption read, "Finally with a real man who appreciates a woman who matches his ambition. Some girls just can't keep up." Tanya wanted to respond, to defend Simone publicly, but Simone stopped her. "It's what they want," she said. "They want me to look bitter and crazy. I won't give them that satisfaction." But privately she was breaking. She'd moved into a small studio apartment in a less expensive part of town. She was working at a nonprofit that paid barely above minimum wage. She ate ramen most nights. She cried herself to sleep. The final divorce hearing was quick. Harrison didn't even attend, he sent his lawyers. Simone sat in the courtroom and signed her name on the documents that ended her marriage. "Do you have anything you'd like to say?" the judge asked. Simone looked at Patterson and his team. She thought about Harrison, probably at his office or with Clarissa, not even bothered enough to show up. "Yes," she said quietly. "I hope he gets exactly what he deserves." Patterson smirked. "Is that a threat?" "No," Simone said. "It's a prediction." She walked out of that courthouse with $20,000, her personal belongings and her freedom. It didn't feel like much, but it was hers. That night, sitting in her tiny apartment, Simone made a decision. She wasn't going to let Harrison define her. She wasn't going to stay in this nonprofit sector where his influence could follow her. She was going to reinvent herself completely. She was going to build something Harrison could never touch. She was going to succeed in a way that made all his cruelty meaningless. She opened her laptop and started researching business programs, career changes, anything that would help her start over. She didn't know it yet, but that was the night she started becoming Simone Montgomery. The woman who would make Harrison Brooks regret every cruel word. The woman who would rise so far above him that he'd look like an ant from her view. 6 months after the divorce, Simone barely recognized her own life. She'd sold most of her designer clothes and jewelry to pay for a 6-week intensive business certification program. She'd moved her belongings into storage and crashed on Tanya's couch while she rebuilt herself from nothing. The program had been brutal. Accounting, business strategy, market analysis, project management, all crammed into 6 weeks of 12-hour days. But Simone had absorbed every lesson like her life depended on it. Because it did. "You're the most driven person in this program," her instructor had told her on the last day. "Companies would be lucky to have you." Simone had applied to 73 positions. She'd received 68 rejections, 5 interviews, and finally 1 offer. Sterling Industries. Project manager position. Decent salary. Room for growth. She'd accepted before they finished making the offer. Her first day at Sterling Industries, Simone had stood in front of the gleaming office building and taken a deep breath. This was it. Her fresh start. Her new life. No one here knew about Harrison or the divorce or any of it. She was just Simone Davis. She'd gone back to her maiden name, a project manager ready to prove herself. The work was challenging. Sterling Industries was a major player in sustainable technology, and they moved fast. Simone managed multiple projects simultaneously, coordinating between departments, handling budgets, solving problems that arose. She was good at it. Better than good. Within 3 months, her supervisor pulled her aside. "You're exceeding expectations," he'd said. "I'm putting you on the Scandinavia expansion project. It's high profile. Don't let me down." Simone hadn't let him down. She'd coordinated the entire expansion flawlessly, bringing the project in under budget and ahead of schedule. Her work caught the attention of the executive team. That's how she'd ended up at the leadership retreat in Colorado. The retreat was held at an exclusive mountain resort. 50 of Sterling Industries' top performers, brought together for 3 days of strategic planning and team building. Simone had felt out of place at first, surrounded by executives and senior managers. She was still relatively new, still rebuilding her confidence. But during a breakout session on market expansion, she presented an idea about targeting emerging markets in Southeast Asia. Her presentation had been thorough, backed by data, and offered a fresh perspective. After the session, a tall man with warm brown eyes and a thoughtful expression had approached her. "That was impressive," he'd said, extending his hand. "Adrian Montgomery." Simone had recognized the name immediately. CEO of Sterling Industries. The man who ran the entire company. "Thank you, Mr. Montgomery," she'd stammered. "Adrian, please. And I mean it. That Southeast Asia strategy is exactly the kind of innovative thinking we need. Would you have time to discuss it further? Maybe over dinner tonight?" That dinner had changed everything. Adrian wasn't like Harrison at all. He'd asked questions and actually listened to the answers. He'd wanted to know about her background, her ideas, her perspectives. He'd been impressed by her work, not her appearance. He'd seen her mind before anything else. "I grew up poor," Adrian had told her over dessert. "My father was a factory worker. I built this company from nothing because I understood that success comes from hard work and smart strategy, not from looking down on people. That's why your idea resonated. You're thinking about how to help communities while building business. That's rare." They talked for 3 hours. About business, about life, about their views on success and failure. "I was married," Adrian had said at one point. "My wife passed away 4 years ago. Cancer. We have a daughter, Riley. She's 8. Being a single parent and running a company is complicated." "I can imagine," Simone had said softly. "I'm divorced. It was difficult. Do you want to talk about it?" And surprisingly, she had. She told him a simplified version. The cheating, the ugly divorce, the rebuilding. She hadn't mentioned Harrison's name or how cruel it had been. But Adrian had seemed to understand anyway. "Anyone who couldn't see your worth is a fool," he'd said simply. Over the next few months, Adrian had sought out Simone's input on various projects. He'd promoted her to senior project manager. He'd invited her to strategy meetings. And slowly, carefully, their professional relationship had developed into friendship. "Riley wants to meet you," Adrian had said one day 6 months after the retreat. "She's heard me talk about this brilliant woman at work and she's curious." Meeting Riley had been nerve-wracking. Simone had no experience with children. But Riley had bounded up to her with unbridled energy and announced, "Dad says you're really smart and you helped him with the Asia thing. Are you as smart as he says?" "I don't know," Simone had laughed. How smart does he say I am? Really, really smart. Like genius level. Well, I don't know about genius. Do you like pizza? Riley had interrupted. Because Dad's making pizza tonight and he's terrible at it, but I didn't want to hurt his feelings. But if you think it's bad too, maybe he'll believe it. Simone had looked at Adrian, who was trying not to laugh. The pizza had indeed been terrible. But the evening had been perfect. Adrian had walked Simone to her car that night. Riley likes you, he'd said. She's picky about people. So that means something. I like her too, Simone had admitted. She's wonderful. So are you, Adrian had said softly. Then he'd asked the question that had been building between them for months. Would you like to have dinner with me? Not as colleagues. As more than that. Simone had been terrified. The last relationship had destroyed her. But Adrian wasn't Harrison. Adrian was kind. Genuine. Real. Yes, she'd said. I'd like that very much. Their first real date had been at a small Italian restaurant, nothing fancy. Adrian had shown up with flowers and opened her car door and asked about her day. He'd been nervous, which she'd found endearing. I haven't done this in a long time, he'd admitted. Dating. It's terrifying. I know what you mean, Simone had said. They'd taken things slowly. Adrian never pushed. He respected her boundaries. He introduced her to Riley gradually, making sure everyone was comfortable. He was thoughtful and patient in everything Harrison hadn't been. At work, they'd been professional. No one knew they were dating. Simone had insisted on maintaining that boundary, wanting to prove herself on her own merits. After a year of dating, Adrian had proposed. Not at a fancy restaurant or public event, but in his living room while Riley was at a sleepover. Just the two of them, honest and real. I love you, he'd said simply. I love your strength and your intelligence and your kindness. Riley loves you. I want to build a life with you. Will you marry me? Simone had cried. Happy tears this time. Yes. The wedding had been small and private. Just close friends and family. Riley had been the flower girl, beaming with joy. It was nothing like Simone's first wedding. That huge, expensive show that had been all about appearances. This was real. This was love. This was home. When she'd signed the marriage license as Simone Montgomery, she'd felt like she was claiming her real identity for the first time. The first 3 months of marriage were an adjustment. Not because things were difficult, but because they were so different from everything Simone had known before. Adrian actually wanted to spend time with her. He came home for dinner. He asked about her day and listened to the answer. He valued her opinions on everything from business decisions to what color to paint Riley's room. I think you should be more involved in the strategic planning side of Sterling, Adrian said one evening as they cleaned up after dinner. Riley was upstairs doing homework. Your insights are consistently some of the best I hear. I don't want anyone thinking I'm getting special treatment because I'm your wife, Simone said carefully. You're not getting special treatment. You're getting recognition for being brilliant. Adrian dried a plate and put it away. But I understand wanting to maintain clear professional boundaries. What if we structured it so you're reporting directly to the COO, not to me? That way there's separation. That could work, Simone admitted. Also, Adrian continued, I've been thinking about expanding your role. Not because you're my wife. Because we need someone with your strategic mind in a higher position. But I wanted to check with you first. Make sure you're comfortable with that level of visibility. Visibility. That was the concern. The more visible she became, the more likely it was that people from her past would make the connection. Would see that Simone Davis, the failure Harrison had discarded, was now Simone Montgomery, successful executive. I'm not ashamed of my past, Simone said slowly. But I also don't want to deal with the drama it might bring. You don't have to decide now, Adrian said. Just think about it. That weekend, they'd taken Riley to the Science Museum. Watching Adrian explain exhibits to his daughter, seeing how patient he was with her endless questions, Simone felt a wave of gratitude. This was what family looked like. What love looked like. This quiet, normal, beautiful life. Simone, can I ask you something? Riley said as they walked through the space exhibit. Of course. Can I call you Mom? I mean, if you want. If it's okay. Simone's throat tightened. She looked at Adrian, who was watching with gentle eyes. I'd really like that, Simone said softly. Riley had hugged her then, and Simone had felt something broken inside her begin to heal. At work, Simone continued to excel. She'd taken on a leadership role in the Southeast Asia expansion. Her original idea from the retreat was now a major company initiative. She managed a team of 15 people and coordinated with international partners. You're doing incredible work, the COO Margaret Chin told her during a review. Adrian's recommendation was spot on. We'd like to promote you to Director of Strategic Initiatives. That's a significant jump, Simone said, trying to stay calm. You've earned it. Your project success rate is 94%. Your teams consistently rate you as one of the best managers they've worked with. And your strategic proposals have generated substantial revenue growth. The title just reflects what you're already doing. Simone accepted the promotion. With it came more responsibility, a better office, and unfortunately, more visibility. Her name started appearing in company announcements and industry publications. Simone Montgomery, Director of Strategic Initiatives at Sterling Industries. She waited for the shoe to drop, for someone from her old life to recognize her. But nothing happened. Apparently, the world had moved on from the scandal of Harrison Brooks's divorce. She was just another business professional now. Home life settled into a comfortable rhythm. Simone helped Riley with homework, attended school events, and gradually became a real parent. Adrian included her in every major decision about Riley's life, treating her as an equal partner. I never thought I'd have this, Simone admitted one night as they sat on the back porch after Riley had gone to bed. A real marriage. A family. Happiness. You deserve all of it, Adrian said, taking her hand. I know your ex-husband did a number on you, but you need to know, you're extraordinary, Simone. Not because of me. Because of who you are. I love you, she said simply. I love you too. Life wasn't perfect. Simone still had moments when she doubted herself, when Harrison's cruel words echoed in her mind. But Adrian was always there to remind her of her worth. And watching Riley grow and thrive gave Simone a purpose beyond just proving her ex wrong. One evening, almost a year into their marriage, Adrian came home with a serious expression. The annual Sterling Industries Gala is coming up, he said. It's a huge event. Investors, board members, business partners from around the world. As my wife and as the Director of Strategic Initiatives, you'll be there in a prominent role. I expected that, Simone said. I need to tell you something, Adrian continued. Harrison Brooks's company has been struggling. Badly. He's been reaching out to potential investors, trying to save his business. I've heard through channels that he might try to attend the gala. He's desperate for connections. Simone felt her stomach drop. Will you give him an invitation? Absolutely not, Adrian said firmly. But he might find a way in anyway. Rich, desperate men often do. I wanted you to know the possibility exists. If you're not comfortable attending, I understand completely. Simone thought about it. The old Simone would have hidden. Would have avoided any possibility of seeing Harrison. But she wasn't that woman anymore. I'll be there, she said. I'm not going to hide from him. I'm not going to let him have that power over me anymore. You're sure? I'm sure. Adrian pulled her close. If he does show up and causes any problems, he'll regret it. You have my word on that. Simone believed him. But she also knew she could handle Harrison now. She wasn't his victim anymore. She was Simone Montgomery. She was strong. She was successful. She was loved. She was everything Harrison had tried to convince her she could never be. The gala was 3 weeks away. Simone bought a beautiful midnight blue evening gown. She had her hair styled. She prepared herself mentally for the possibility of seeing the man who had destroyed her old life. But she wasn't scared, because that man no longer had any power over her. He was about to find that out the hard way. Harrison Brooks stared at the financial reports spread across his desk and felt panic rising in his chest. Brooks Technologies, the company his father had built and he'd inherited, was hemorrhaging money at an alarming rate. How did this happen? He demanded, glaring at his CFO. Sir, the decisions made over the past 2 years have been problematic, the CFO said carefully. The expansion into the cryptocurrency platform without proper research. The acquisition of that failing biotech company because Ms. Winters thought it would be profitable. The excessive spending on. Are you blaming Clarissa? Harrison interrupted. I'm explaining the factors, the CFO said. We've also lost 3 major contracts because our service quality has declined. Several key employees left to work for competitors. Our reputation in the industry has taken a significant hit. Harrison knew why employees had left. He'd been distracted. Focused on his relationship with Clarissa, on enjoying his wealth, on the lavish lifestyle they'd been living. He'd let operations slide. Made impulsive business decisions. Trusted Clarissa's suggestions without proper vetting. We can fix this, Harrison said. We just need to secure new investors. Make some strategic partnerships. "Sir, we've approached every major investor in our usual network. No one wants to touch us right now. Our stock price has dropped 43% in 6 months. We're barely staying solvent." After the CFO left, Harrison sat in his office and tried to figure out where it had all gone wrong. 2 years ago, he'd been on top of the world. Successful. Powerful. Married to Simone, who had been perfect for his image, even if she'd been boring. Then he'd met Clarissa, who was exciting and ambitious and made him feel alive. Divorcing Simone had been easy. She'd been too weak to really fight him. He'd walked away clean, ready to live his best life. Except his best life was falling apart. "Harrison." Clarissa's voice cut through his thoughts. She swept into his office in a designer dress that had cost $15,000. "I want to go to Dubai next month. Lauren and Trevor are going, and I'm not going to be left out." "We need to cut back on expenses," Harrison said, rubbing his temples. "Cut back?" Clarissa laughed. "You're a billionaire, Harrison. We're not cutting back on anything. The company is having some cash flow problems." "Then fix them," Clarissa said, examining her nails. "That's your job, isn't it? To make money? I didn't sign up for this relationship to live like some middle-class nobody." "Clarissa, I'm serious. Things are tight right now." She looked at him with cold eyes. "Then maybe you should work harder. Your father built this company from nothing. Are you telling me you can't even maintain it?" The comparison to his father stung. His father had been a ruthless businessman who'd built Brooks Technologies into a powerhouse. Harrison had always felt like he was living in his father's shadow, trying to prove himself worthy of the inheritance. "I'm doing my best," Harrison said defensively. "Your best isn't good enough," Clarissa said. "I've been looking into investment opportunities. Sterling Industries is hosting their annual gala next month. All the major players will be there. If you could partner with Adrian Montgomery, it would solve all our problems." "Sterling Industries is way out of our league right now," Harrison said. "So get in their league," Clarissa snapped. "Or I swear, Harrison, I'll find someone who can actually provide the lifestyle I deserve." She left, slamming the door behind her. Harrison slumped in his chair. This wasn't how things were supposed to be. Clarissa was supposed to be his perfect match, his ambitious partner. But lately all she cared about was money and status. She barely wanted to be around him unless he was spending money on her. He missed. No, he wasn't going to think about Simone. That weak, boring woman who'd never understood him. Who'd been content with charity work and quiet dinners. Who'd never pushed him to be more. Except she had pushed him, hadn't she? She'd supported every decision, helped him network, made him look good at social events. She'd been the foundation that had let him focus on business. But he'd thrown her away because Clarissa had seemed so much more exciting. Harrison shook off the thoughts and focused on the immediate problem. He needed investors. He needed connections. Clarissa was right about one thing. The Sterling Industries gala was full of potential partners. He started making calls. None of his usual contacts could get him an invitation. Sterling Industries was selective about their guest list, and Harrison's reputation had taken hits he hadn't realized. People were talking about his company's problems. About his poor business decisions. About his messy divorce. "I heard you really did a number on your ex-wife," one potential contact said over lunch. "That whole thing was ugly, Brooks. Made you look petty." "She was trying to take me for everything I had," Harrison lied. "I had to protect myself." "Sure," the man said, clearly not believing him. "But the way you handled it? Making her look crazy? That's not a good look. Makes people wonder what you'll do to business partners if things go south." Harrison hadn't considered that angle. He'd been so focused on winning the divorce, on punishing Simone for daring to question his affair, that he hadn't thought about how it made him look professionally. "Anyway," the contact continued, "I can't help you with Sterling Industries." "Sorry." Harrison kept trying. He pulled every favor he had. Finally, 3 weeks before the gala, he managed to secure an invitation through a business acquaintance who owed him money. It wasn't an official invitation, more of a +1 situation, but it would get him in the door. "I got us into the Sterling Gala," he told Clarissa that evening. "Finally," she said, barely looking up from her phone. "I need a new dress. Something that makes a statement." "Clarissa, I said we need to watch our spending. And I said I need a new dress. Unless you want me to show up looking poor?" She gave him that look, the one that said she was already thinking about other men who could give her what she wanted. Harrison bought her the dress. $20,000. It hurt, but losing Clarissa would hurt worse. He needed her right now. Needed someone in his corner. The night before the gala, Harrison researched Sterling Industries and Adrian Montgomery. The company was impressive, innovative, profitable, growing rapidly. Montgomery himself had an impeccable reputation. Self-made billionaire, widower, raising a young daughter alone while running a major company. Everything Harrison wished he was. If he could secure a partnership or investment from Sterling Industries, it would save Brooks Technologies. It would prove he was still relevant, still powerful. He never connected the dots. Never thought to research Adrian Montgomery's wife. Why would he? The CEO's personal life wasn't relevant to business. Harrison had no idea he was about to walk into a trap of his own making. No idea that the woman he'd destroyed was about to be standing right in front of him, untouchable and powerful. No idea that his entire world was about to collapse because of one moment of cruelty. He got dressed for the gala in his best suit, confident that tomorrow night would be the turning point. That he'd walk into that ballroom and save everything. He had no idea how wrong he was. The silence in the ballroom was deafening. Simone stood there, wine dripping from her dress, surrounded by shocked faces. Adrian was still standing behind Harrison, his expression carved from ice. "You're making a mistake," Harrison said, his voice shaking as security gripped his arms. "I didn't know." "You didn't know?" Adrian's voice was quiet but carried through the entire room. "You didn't know that assaulting someone in public is wrong? You didn't know that pushing a woman who never did anything to you is unacceptable?" "I mean, I didn't know she was your wife," Harrison stammered. "And that matters why?" Adrian took a step forward. "Would it have been acceptable if she was anyone else? She was a server? A caterer? An assistant? Does someone need to be connected to a CEO for you to treat them with basic respect?" Harrison's face flushed. Around them, guests were pulling out phones. Recording. Someone's phone camera flashed. This was going to be everywhere by morning. "Adrian, please," Harrison tried again. "This is a misunderstanding. Simone and I have history." "I know exactly what history you have," Adrian interrupted. "She told me everything about your marriage. About how you cheated on her. About how you divorced her and tried to destroy her reputation. About how you made her life hell for being brave enough to leave you." Simone saw the moment Harrison realized how badly he'd miscalculated. His eyes darted around the room, looking for allies, for escape routes, for any way out of this situation. "You're overreacting," Harrison said, trying to sound confident. "I barely touched her. She's being dramatic." "I'm standing right here," Simone said quietly. Her voice wasn't loud, but something in it made everyone turn to look at her. "And I'm not being dramatic. You put your hands on me. You pushed me. You tried to humiliate me in front of all these people. Just like you tried to humiliate me during our divorce. Just like you've been trying to make me feel small for years. You're nobody," Harrison spat, his composure cracking. "You were nothing when I married you and you're nothing now. You just found another rich man to leech off of." "Enough," Adrian said, his voice sharp. "Security, remove him. Now." As the guards started dragging Harrison toward the exit, he twisted around, his eyes wild. "You'll regret this. Do you know who I am? What I can do?" "You're Harrison Brooks," Adrian said calmly. "CEO of a failing company that will be bankrupt within 6 months at your current trajectory. You're a man who just assaulted the wife of the CEO of Sterling Industries in front of 300 witnesses, including board members, investors, and media representatives. You're finished. You can't do this to me," Harrison shouted. "You did this to yourself," Simone said. She felt Adrian's hand on her back, steady and supporting. "You always blamed everyone else for your problems. But the truth is, Harrison, you're your own worst enemy. You always have been." Harrison lunged toward her, but security held him back. "You vindictive." "Get him out," Adrian ordered. "And call the police. I want him charged with assault." "No." Harrison struggled against the guards. "Please. I'm sorry." "Simone, tell them. Tell them it was a mistake." Simone looked at the man she'd once loved. The man who had destroyed her life without a second thought. The man who had shown her zero mercy when she was at her lowest point. "No," she said simply. They dragged Harrison out. His protests faded as the doors closed behind him. The ballroom erupted in whispers. Simone stood there, feeling hundreds of eyes on her. Her dress was ruined. Her carefully styled hair was disheveled. She probably looked like a mess. But she'd never felt stronger. Margaret Chin, the COO, appeared at her side. "Simone, are you all right? Do you need medical attention?" "I'm fine," Simone assured her. "Just shaken." "That was Harrison Brooks," one of the board members said, approaching. "I didn't realize you two knew each other." "He's my ex-husband," Simone said clearly. "We've been divorced for 2 years. I never expected to see him here tonight. He wasn't officially invited, Adrian said, his arm around Simone now. He came as someone's plus one. That person will no longer be welcome at Sterling Industries events. I should go home and change, Simone said quietly to Adrian. We'll both go, Adrian said immediately. No. Simone touched his arm. You're the host. You need to stay. This is too important to walk away from. You're more important, Adrian said. I know, but I'm okay. Really? Simone managed a small smile. I'm not going to let him ruin this event, or anything else in my life ever again. You're incredible, Adrian said softly. Then, louder, addressing the crowd, Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for that disruption. Unfortunately, someone who was not welcome managed to gain entry tonight. The situation has been handled. Please continue enjoying the evening. And raise your glasses to my wife, Simone, who handled that with more grace than most people could manage. Applause rippled through the crowd. Genuine, supportive applause. People were looking at her with respect, not pity. I'll have someone drive you home, Adrian said to Simone. And I'll be there as soon as I can. Take your time, Simone said. Handle the business. That's what tonight is about. She left the ballroom with her head high, flanked by 2 security guards. In the car on the way home, she finally let herself process what had happened. Harrison had looked so different. Desperate. Diminished. Nothing like the powerful man who had thrown her away. He was losing everything and he'd been trying to blame her for it. Her phone buzzed. Text messages from people she hadn't heard from in years. Former friends from her marriage to Harrison. I saw what happened. I'm so sorry. I never believed what Harrison said about you. You look amazing. I'm happy for you. Simone deleted them all. These people had abandoned her when she needed them. She didn't need their validation now. When she got home, she changed out of the ruined dress and put on comfortable clothes. Riley was at a sleepover, so the house was quiet. Simone made herself tea and sat on the couch, thinking about how differently this night had ended compared to how she'd imagined it. She'd been prepared to see Harrison from a distance. Maybe exchange cold, polite nods. Move on with her evening. She hadn't expected him to be so bold, so cruel, so desperate. But she also hadn't expected to feel so strong, so sure of herself. The old Simone would have crumbled, would have been humiliated, would have run away. The new Simone had stood her ground, had faced him without fear, had let him expose his own ugliness to everyone who mattered. When Adrian came home 2 hours later, Simone was still on the couch. How did the rest of the gala go? She asked. Honestly, that incident might have been the best thing that could have happened for business, Adrian said, sitting beside her. 3 different investors approached me to express their disgust at Harrison's behavior and their respect for you. The media coverage is going to be interesting, but it's all going to make Sterling Industries look good. That's something, I guess, Simone said. How are you really? Adrian asked, taking her hands. I'm good, Simone said, surprised to find it was true. I thought seeing him would bring back all those old feelings. The hurt, the shame, the anger. But instead all I felt was pity. He looked so pathetic, Adrian. So desperate. He destroyed everything trying to punish me and now he has nothing. He deserves nothing, Adrian said firmly. Maybe. But I don't want to think about what he deserves anymore. I just want to move forward. We still need to press charges, Adrian reminded her. He assaulted you. That has to have consequences. I know, Simone said. And I will. Not because I want revenge, but because no one should be able to do what he did without facing consequences. Adrian pulled her close. I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of me too, Simone said softly. And she meant it. Tonight had been a test she hadn't known she'd have to face. And she'd passed. Harrison had tried one more time to break her. But she was unbreakable now. The next morning, Simone woke up to her phone exploding with notifications. The incident at the gala was everywhere. Business news sites. Social media. Even mainstream news had picked it up because Harrison Brooks was a somewhat public figure. The headlines varied. Billionaire assaults ex-wife at industry event. Harrison Brooks removed from Sterling Industries gala after altercation. CO Adrian Montgomery defends wife from ex-husband's attack. Someone had recorded the entire incident. The video was clear. Harrison approaching Simone. His aggressive body language. The moment he pushed her. Adrian stepping in. Harrison being removed by security. This is going to be everywhere for weeks, Adrian said, reading the news on his tablet over breakfast. Is that bad for Sterling Industries? Simone asked. No. If anything, it's showing we don't tolerate that kind of behavior. The response on social media is overwhelmingly supportive of you. He showed her his tablet. The comments were brutal toward Harrison. What kind of man pushes a woman like that? He's pathetic. She clearly upgraded. This is why his company is failing. No character. I need to go to the police station today, Simone said. File the official assault charges. I'm coming with you, Adrian said immediately. You don't have to. I'm coming with you, Adrian repeated firmly. At the police station, Simone gave her statement. The officer taking her report was professional and sympathetic. We have multiple videos of the incident, he said. And dozens of witnesses. This is a strong case. Mr. Brooks will be charged with assault. Given his resources, he'll probably be released on bail quickly, but there will be a trial. What happens if he's convicted? Simone asked. For a first-time offense of this nature, probably a fine and possibly probation. It's unlikely he'll serve jail time. But it will be on his record. That afternoon, Harrison was arrested at his office. The media covered that too. Photos of Harrison in handcuffs being led out of Brooks Technologies headquarters. His lawyers worked fast. He was released on bail within hours. But the damage was done. Sterling Industries issued an official statement. We have zero tolerance for violence or harassment of any kind. Harrison Brooks is permanently banned from all Sterling Industries properties and events. We stand fully behind our Director of Strategic Initiatives, Simone Montgomery, and will support her completely through the legal process. The statement was picked up by every major business publication. Then the floodgates opened. Former employees of Brooks Technologies started coming forward. A Reddit thread started, My experience working for Harrison Brooks. The stories were damning. He screamed at his assistant until she cried, then fired her for being too emotional. He demanded we work through holidays but took month-long vacations. He blamed everyone else when his decisions failed. The affair with his secretary was the worst-kept secret. He'd make out with her in his office with the door open. More business news followed. Investigations into Brooks Technologies' financial practices. Questions about some of his business dealings that might have crossed ethical lines. I didn't start this, Simone told Tanya on the phone. I just filed assault charges. You didn't need to start it, Tanya said. You just opened the door. Everyone's been waiting for someone to stand up to him. Now they feel safe telling their stories. 3 days after the gala, Clarissa Winters posted on social media. A long, dramatic post about how she was heartbroken to discover the true nature of the man I loved, and how she was moving on to find someone who truly values me. She's leaving him, Adrian observed, reading the post. Probably found out how bad his financial situation really is. She only wanted his money, Simone said. Now that he's losing it, she's gone. A week later, the photos appeared. Clarissa at an expensive restaurant with Theodore Hartman, another billionaire. She'd already moved on. The preliminary hearing for the assault charges was scheduled for 3 weeks out. Harrison's lawyers tried everything to get the charges dropped or reduced. They offered settlements. They claimed it was a misunderstanding. They suggested Simone was motivated by revenge. Simone's lawyer, a fierce woman named Patricia Williams, shut down every attempt. My client was assaulted in front of hundreds of witnesses, Patricia stated firmly in court. There's video evidence. There's no misunderstanding. Mr. Brooks committed a crime, and he needs to face the consequences. The judge agreed. The case would proceed to trial. Throughout all of this, Simone maintained her normal life. She went to work. She came home to Adrian and Riley. She attended Riley's soccer games and helped with homework. She refused to let Harrison's final act of aggression consume her life. But she also refused to back down. His lawyers called again, Patricia informed her. They're offering a substantial settlement if you'll drop the criminal charges. We're talking 7 figures. No, Simone said immediately. You don't want to hear the amount? I don't care about the amount. This isn't about money. This is about making sure he understands that actions have consequences. That he can't just buy his way out of everything. Some victims would take the money, Patricia said carefully. I'm not some victim anymore, Simone said. I'm someone who's making sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. The trial was set for 2 months out. In the meantime, more of Harrison's world fell apart. Major clients terminated their contracts with Brooks Technologies. Investors pulled out completely. The company's stock became essentially worthless. Board members resigned. Key employees left for competitors. The company that Harrison's father had built was imploding. "You're destroying him," Tanya said during lunch one day. "I'm not destroying him," Simone corrected. "I filed legitimate charges for a crime he committed. Everything else, the business failures, the lost relationships, the reputation damage, that's all him. Those are the consequences of years of treating people terribly." "Still," Tanya said, "it must feel good to watch him lose everything." Simone thought about it. "It doesn't feel as good as I thought it would. Mostly I just feel free. Like I'm finally closing that chapter of my life for good." 2 weeks before the trial, Harrison's lawyers made one final attempt. They requested a meeting with Simone directly, claiming Harrison wanted to apologize in person. "Absolutely not," Adrian said when Patricia told them about the request. "Actually," Simone said slowly, "I want to hear what he has to say." Simone. "Not alone," she clarified. "With Patricia and you present. In a controlled environment. I want to hear his apology. Or whatever he thinks passes for an apology." The meeting was arranged at Patricia's office. Harrison arrived looking like he'd aged 10 years in 2 months. His expensive suit didn't fit quite right anymore. His face was drawn. His hands shook slightly. "Simone," he said as soon as he saw her. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." "I'm not agreeing to anything except this conversation," Simone said coolly. "Speak." Harrison glanced at his lawyers, who nodded encouragingly. "I want to apologize. For everything. For the affair, for the divorce, for how I treated you. And especially for what happened at the gala. I was wrong. I was cruel. I was everything you said I was." "Is that the apology your lawyers wrote for you?" Simone asked. "No, Harrison stopped. "Okay, yes, they helped. But I mean it, Simone. I made terrible mistakes. I'm losing everything because of those mistakes. My company. My reputation. Clarissa left me. I have nothing left. And you want me to fix it," Simone said flatly. "I want you to have mercy," Harrison said. "Drop the charges. Tell Adrian to reconsider the blacklist. Help me save what's left of my company. Please. I'm begging you." There it was. The real reason for the apology. He didn't want forgiveness. He wanted rescue. "No," Simone said. "Simone, please." "You're not sorry, Harrison. You're desperate. There's a difference." Simone leaned forward. "When you divorced me, you made sure I had nothing. You froze my accounts. You destroyed my reputation. You turned people against me. You made my life hell because I had the audacity to be hurt by your betrayal." "I know." "I'm not finished," Simone said sharply. "When I was at my lowest point, when I had nothing, did you show mercy? Did you help me? Did you even care that you destroyed someone who loved you?" Harrison said nothing. "You didn't," Simone continued, "because you didn't see me as a person. I was just an inconvenience to you. Something in your way. So you removed me as brutally as possible." "I'm sorry," Harrison whispered. "Now you're facing consequences," Simone said. "And you want me to save you. But I'm not your wife anymore. I'm not your responsibility. I'm not your solution. I'm just someone you assaulted who is making sure you face legal consequences for that assault." "The trial will ruin me completely," Harrison said. "That's not my problem," Simone said. "You made your choices. These are the results." She stood up. "We're done here." "Simone, wait." "We're done," she repeated. Then she looked at Harrison one last time. "I hope you learn something from this. I hope you become a better person. But that's not my job anymore. Goodbye, Harrison." She walked out, Adrian right behind her. In the car, Adrian took her hand. "Are you okay?" "I'm perfect," Simone said. And she meant it. She'd faced Harrison one last time, and she'd felt nothing but peace. The trial was going to happen. Harrison was going to face justice. And Simone was finally completely free. The trial lasted 3 days. The courtroom was packed with media and curious onlookers. Harrison sat at the defense table looking smaller than Simone had ever seen him, his expensive lawyers flanking him like bodyguards. Simone testified on the first day. Patricia walked her through the events of the gala, and the video was played for the jury. There was no ambiguity. Harrison had deliberately approached her, had verbally attacked her, had physically pushed her. "How did you feel in that moment?" Patricia asked. "Shocked," Simone answered honestly. "And violated. He put his hands on me with the intent to humiliate me in front of hundreds of people. To make me feel small and powerless. The same way he tried to make me feel during our entire divorce." Harrison's lawyers tried to paint it as an unfortunate misunderstanding, a moment of poor judgment. They brought up the divorce, trying to suggest Simone had provoked him somehow. "Isn't it true you and Mr. Brooks had a contentious divorce?" his lead attorney asked. "We had a divorce he made contentious," Simone corrected. "I wanted to end our marriage quietly. He chose to make it a war." "And isn't it true you're now married to a billionaire CEO? That you've done quite well for yourself?" "Objection," Patricia said immediately. "Relevance." "Sustained," the judge said. "Counselor, Ms. Montgomery's current marriage has nothing to do with whether your client assaulted her." Over the next 2 days, other witnesses testified. People who'd been at the gala. The security guards who'd removed Harrison. Margaret Chin, who testified about Simone's character and professionalism. Then came the character witnesses for Harrison, or rather the lack thereof. His lawyers had struggled to find anyone willing to testify on his behalf. They brought in a business associate who spoke stiffly about Harrison's past success, a distant cousin who barely knew him. But former employees testified for the prosecution, volunteered to do so. They told stories of Harrison's temper, his tendency to blame others, his pattern of aggressive behavior. "He once threw a stapler at an assistant's head," one former employee testified. "When it missed and hit the wall, he made her clean up the mess and apologized to him for making him angry." The jury heard it all. The pattern of behavior that made the assault at the gala not an isolated incident but part of who Harrison was. On the third day, Harrison took the stand in his own defense. His lawyers had advised against it, but he'd insisted. He needed to tell his side. "I made a mistake," Harrison said, his voice carefully modulated. "I saw my ex-wife at an event and old emotions came up. Anger about how our marriage ended. I acted inappropriately and I regret it deeply." "So you admit you pushed Ms. Montgomery?" the prosecutor asked on cross-examination. There was contact, yes," Harrison hedged. "But I didn't intend to hurt her." "What did you intend?" "I just wanted her to understand." "Understand what, Mr. Brooks? That you were angry with her? That you wanted to humiliate her in front of her colleagues and her husband?" "No, You said, and I quote from multiple witnesses, 'You don't belong here. You're an embarrassment.' Is that correct?" Harrison's jaw tightened. "I was upset. And when you're upset, you put your hands on people? You push them?" "That's not what I..." "Answer the question, Mr. Brooks. When you're upset, is it acceptable to physically assault someone?" "No," Harrison admitted quietly. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, the verdict was clear: guilty. Harrison's face crumbled as the judge read the verdict. He truly believed he'd somehow get away with it. That his lawyers would save him. That his money and status would protect him. But they hadn't. Sentencing was set for 2 weeks later. Harrison received a fine of $50,000, 2 years of probation, mandatory anger management classes, and a permanent restraining order keeping him away from Simone. "Do you wish to make a statement?" the judge asked Simone after sentencing. Simone stood. "Yes, Your Honor. I want to thank the court for taking this seriously. Assault is assault, regardless of the relationship between the people involved. I hope Mr. Brooks uses this time to reflect on his actions and become a better person. But mainly, I hope other people who've been treated the way he treated me see this and know they don't have to accept that treatment. Thank you." As Simone left the courthouse, reporters swarmed. She prepared a brief statement with Patricia. "Justice was served today," Simone said calmly. "I'm grateful to the jury and the justice system. Now I'm going home to my family." That was it. No gloating. No celebration. Just closure. The business fallout continued. Within a month of the trial, Brooks Technologies filed for bankruptcy. The company that had been in Harrison's family for 30 years was gone. The assets were liquidated to pay creditors and legal fees. Harrison's mansion was seized by the bank. His cars were repossessed. His investment accounts were frozen and emptied to pay debts. He'd been a billionaire. Now he was unemployed and essentially broke. Several of his former executives approached Sterling Industries for positions. Simone personally interviewed 3 of them. "Why did you stay at Brooks Technologies as long as you did?" she asked one candidate. "Honestly? Fear," the man admitted. Harrison had a reputation for destroying people who crossed him. But after seeing how you stood up to him and won, it gave the rest of us courage to leave. Sterling Industries hired 2 of the 3, bringing fresh talent and insider knowledge into the company. Clarissa, meanwhile, had moved on completely. She was engaged to Theodore Hartman within 3 months, flashing a massive ring on social media. She never publicly commented on Harrison's downfall, but she'd scrubbed all photos of him from her accounts. Tanya sent Simone a screenshot of Clarissa's engagement post. "She doesn't waste time." "She never did," Simone replied. "She knew exactly what she wanted." Unfortunately for Harrison, what she wanted was never him. Just his money. "Do you think he understands that now?" "I don't know," Simone said honestly. "But it's not my problem anymore." 3 months after the trial, Simone was at work when Patricia called. "Harrison has requested permission to send you a letter," Patricia said. "The restraining order prohibits direct contact, but he can petition the court for permission to send a written communication. You have every right to refuse." "What kind of letter?" Simone asked. "He claims it's a genuine apology. Not asking for anything. Just wanting to express remorse." Simone thought about it. "Let him send it." The letter arrived a week later. Simone sat at her home office and opened it, Adrian standing nearby in case she needed support. The letter was handwritten on plain paper. No expensive stationery. No company letterhead. "Dear Simone, I know I don't have the right to contact you, even through proper legal channels. But I wanted to say something I should have said 2 years ago. I'm sorry. Not because I'm losing everything, though I am. Not because I need something from you, I don't. But because I genuinely understand now what I did to you. I destroyed someone who loved me. I took your devotion and support and threw it away because I was selfish and cruel. I blamed you for my own emptiness. I tried to break you to make myself feel powerful. You didn't deserve any of it. You were a good wife, a good person, and I was too arrogant and blind to see it. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm just saying I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the affair, for the divorce, for the public humiliation, for putting my hands on you at the gala, for every cruel word and every heartless action. You've built a beautiful life without me. You've succeeded beyond anything I could imagine. And you did it all while I was actively trying to tear you down. I hope you're happy. I hope you never think of me again. You deserve all the good things life has to offer. I'm working at a consulting firm now. Entry-level position. I'm starting over at the bottom. Maybe that's what I needed. A chance to rebuild without my father's company and reputation to hide behind. I'm not the man you married anymore. I hope I'm not the man who assaulted you at the gala anymore either. I'm trying to be better. That's all. Just wanted you to know I'm sorry and I'm glad you're happy. Harrison." Simone set the letter down. She felt nothing. No anger. No satisfaction. No pain. Just a quiet sort of peace. "What do you think?" Adrian asked. "I think he finally understands what he lost," Simone said. "But you know what? It doesn't matter. This letter doesn't change anything. It doesn't undo the harm. It's just words. Do you want to respond?" "No," Simone said simply. "He doesn't deserve my time or energy. Not even enough to reply." She filed the letter away in a drawer and never looked at it again. Harrison Brooks was finally, truly out of her life. And Simone Montgomery could focus entirely on her future. 2 years after the gala incident, Simone stood in the conference room at Sterling Industries and looked out at the view. The city stretched below, glittering in the afternoon sun. Her office was on the 45th floor now, with her new title on the door, Chief Strategy Officer. She'd earned it. Every bit of it. Her Southeast Asia initiative had exceeded all projections, generating millions in revenue. Her strategic leadership had helped Sterling Industries acquire 2 competitors and expand into 3 new markets. She was respected throughout the industry as a brilliant business mind. "Mom?" Riley's voice came from the doorway. She was 12 now, taller and more confident. "Dad says we're going to be late for the ceremony if you don't stop staring out the window." Simone laughed. "I'm coming." Today was the launch of the Montgomery Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to helping women rebuild their lives after difficult divorces. Simone had poured her heart into creating it over the past year. The foundation offered career counseling, legal support, temporary housing assistance, and job placement services. Too many women lose everything in divorce because their husbands have more resources, Simone had explained to the board when proposing the foundation. "I want to change that. I want to make sure no woman has to go through what I went through." Sterling Industries had donated the seed funding. Adrian had insisted. "Your story, your foundation," he'd said. "I'm just supporting you." The launch ceremony was held at a beautiful event space downtown. Over 200 people attended. Business leaders, potential donors, and several women who'd already been helped by the foundation's early programs. Simone stood at the podium looking out at the audience. She saw Adrian and Riley in the front row, both beaming with pride. She saw Tanya, who'd stuck by her through everything. She saw colleagues from Sterling Industries who'd become real friends. "Thank you all for being here," Simone began. "2 years ago I was at rock bottom. I'd lost my marriage, my reputation, my financial security, and my sense of self-worth. I felt like my life was over, like I'd never recover." She paused, letting the memory wash over her without pain. "But I did recover. With the help of good people and a lot of hard work, I rebuilt my life into something better than I'd ever imagined possible. And I realized, if I could do it, other women can too. But they need support. They need resources. They need someone to believe in them when they can't believe in themselves." Applause rippled through the audience. "The Montgomery Foundation exists to be that support system," Simone continued. "We're here to tell women that their lives aren't over, that they can rebuild, that they can thrive. That divorce doesn't define them, what they do next defines them." After the ceremony, a woman approached Simone. She was in her 30s, dressed nicely but with uncertain eyes. "Ms. Montgomery? I'm Rebecca. I'm one of the women your foundation helped. 3 months ago, I was sleeping on my sister's couch, convinced I'd never have a career or a life of my own again. Your career counselors helped me identify my skills. Your legal team helped me navigate my divorce settlement. Last week, I started a new job as a project manager. Because of you." Simone felt tears prick her eyes. "Because of you," she corrected gently. "You did the work. I just helped open some doors." "You did more than that," Rebecca said. "You showed me it was possible. That was everything. That was the whole point." Later that evening, Simone and Adrian dropped Riley off at a friend's house and went for a walk through the city park where they'd had their first real date. "Are you happy?" Adrian asked, taking her hand. "More than I ever thought possible," Simone admitted. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is my life. That I get to wake up next to you every day. That I have Riley. That I have work I love and the chance to help other people." "You deserve all of it," Adrian said firmly. "You're the strongest person I know, Simone. The way you rebuilt yourself, the way you refused to let bitterness consume you, the way you turned your pain into purpose. It's incredible." "I had help," Simone said. "I had you." "We have each other," Adrian corrected. "That's what partnership means." They walked in comfortable silence for a while. Then Simone said, "I saw Harrison last week." Adrian stopped walking. "What? Where?" "At a coffee shop downtown. He was with a client, I think. We made eye contact. He nodded, I nodded back, and then I left. That was it." "How did you feel?" "Nothing," Simone said honestly. "He looked ordinary. Just a regular guy in a business suit. Not the monster from my nightmares or the powerful man who tried to destroy me. Just someone I used to know a long time ago." "That must have been strange," Adrian said. "It was freeing," Simone corrected. "Because I realized I don't think about him anymore. I don't wonder what he's doing or if he's suffering. He's just irrelevant to my life. And that's exactly how it should be." They continued walking. The city lights were coming on as evening fell, creating a beautiful glow across the park. "Tanya told me Clarissa got divorced from Theodore," Simone mentioned casually. "Apparently she's already engaged to someone else." "Some people never change," Adrian observed. "No, they don't. But some people do." Simone squeezed Adrian's hand. "I changed. I became who I was supposed to be all along. I just had to lose everything to find myself." "For what it's worth," Adrian said, "I'm grateful you found yourself. Because I found you." Simone stopped walking and kissed him. Right there in the park where they'd had their first date. Where he'd first seen her as more than just an employee. Where they'd started building something real. "I love you," she said. "I love you too," Adrian replied. They went home to their beautiful house, with Riley's soccer trophies on the mantle and family photos on the walls. Simone had her home office where she worked on foundation business. Adrian had his study where he prepared for board meetings. They had a life they'd built together, based on respect and trust and genuine love. That night, as Simone got ready for bed, she looked at herself in the mirror. Really looked. She saw a woman in her late 30s, confident and successful. She saw the chief strategy officer of a major corporation. She saw the founder of a foundation changing women's lives. She saw a wife and a mother. She saw herself. Finally, completely herself. Harrison had tried to convince her she was nothing. That she was worthless without him. That she'd never amount to anything on her own. He'd been wrong about everything. Simone Montgomery was exactly who she was supposed to be. She'd survived betrayal and rebuilt herself into something stronger. She'd faced her abuser in public and refused to back down. She'd found real love and created a family. She'd succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. She'd won. Not because Harrison had lost, though he had, but because she'd built a life so full and rich and meaningful that Harrison's opinion of her meant nothing. His attempts to destroy her had failed completely. She'd risen above every obstacle he'd placed in her path. And now she was helping other women rise too, breaking the cycle, proving that divorce wasn't an ending but a new beginning. As Simone turned off the light and climbed into bed next to Adrian, she felt complete peace. The past couldn't hurt her anymore. The future was bright with possibility. She'd done more than survive. She'd thrived. And that was the best revenge of all, building a life so beautiful that the person who tried to break you becomes completely irrelevant. Harrison Brooks was a footnote in her story now. A painful chapter that had led to something better. But Simone Montgomery? She was the whole story. The hero. The survivor. The victor. And her story was far from over. It was just beginning.